The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
We're back! How you guys doing? What are you doing with that? You can't squeak a banana.
It's been so long since I've been here. I'm getting cold feet.
Yeah, he got a little nervous. On the way here, he goes, it's kind of like we're going back for the first time all over again. Okay, I didn't even organize my counter because we've been talking and we bought a box of cigars. Oh my gosh. All right, you guys have to go.
Jess's voice has not changed one bit.
Oh boy.
Okay.
We got to do our plug.
I'm demasking.
You guys got to go to twoguyscigar.com, buy online, support our dear friend over here, Dave Garofalo, at Two Guys Cigar Shop. We just bought a box of cigars.
Mild, yet rich.
Scott, of course, came up smoking it. I thought we were just buying one to take it home. Today, we are going to do, talking about critters in spring and summer, fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, all this crap that affects our dogs and what you guys can do to help your dogs stay safe. But first, we're going to start with the quirky tip of the day. You want to be our pig guy? Good, perfect. So the quirky tip is in relation to all of this. And
What's
the bottom
the tip?
line, I know you don't know. That's why I'm doing it. The bottom line is prevention is better than treatment, guys. So you're going to hear a lot from your vets. You're going to hear some different stuff from us. You're going to hear from friends and everything else about how to do this. But the treatment is a pain in the butt. Preventing is the best way to go.
Yeah, but with coronavirus, the treatment may be worse than the cure.
That is true. That is true. Right. So prevention is key there, too. How have you guys been doing? We're so excited to be back. We have been... What have we been doing? I've been doing a lot of puzzles.
A lot of sex. A lot of sex, boy. I'm getting better.
Boxers on.
I'm a slow learner.
Boxers off. He's joking. There hasn't been that much sex. But there have been a lot of puzzles. Tell him about my puzzles.
Unfortunately, she's correct.
Jimmy sleeps in the bed every night, so we got to put Jimmy away.
We've done 6 puzzles.
Yeah, well, I've done the majority of them.
I only lost one piece out of 6 puzzles.
Yeah, we do. And now I'm thinking about maybe rebuying that puzzle just to get the missing piece. It's screwy in my head. I'm hoping it shows up. I even took out the Dysons. I took out all the hair and put it on the ground to look through to see if the piece was in there before I threw out the vacuum stuff, but no such luck. What else do we do? We watch Adam Ezra. That's one of our favorite local bands, Adam Ezra Group. He goes on live on Facebook every day at 7 o'clock Eastern time. He has a gathering series.
Well, I can tell you, I started out strong with the fitness. We were going to the gym. They shut the gym down. I started running every day, taking care of myself, trying to stay positive. And I've gained about 10 pounds in the past week, month.
He pulled a calf muscle, but he's still staying positive, but the fitness is so-so.
How does that affect my eating disorder?
Our gym, that's your own thing.
Our
gym is supposed to open up June 1st, though. So we'll see. In Maine, things are a little bit better than somewhere else in the world, but we're thinking of you guys. We know that this is a hard time for families and people who are quarantining alone, and even the animals sometimes are having stress from it. So we're there with you, but we're excited to be back in studio here today.
One thing I've been doing that's been very therapeutic is I got my little cannabis plants growing.
Oh, yeah, he is
very
growing.
Excited. Going to grow outdoors this year.
He is going to do some growing outdoors.
So I'm in and out, taking my little plants out, letting them get some sun, and all of a sudden the snow comes, I run back in the house.
Yeah, honestly, he's so funny. And the other day, I got to tell you guys, this is a bad one.
Her friggin' dog started eating my plants.
So my dog,
they're just starting to flourish. I come out.
She is like a goat, right? Like she sees leaves and she grabs stuff. So Scott said the other day it was nice. It was the day after it snowed, and he goes, "Hey, let's take the dogs for a walk." So I take her out, and she runs over to one of the weed plants, and she yanks at it. And I was like, "Ah!" I yelled, and Scott brings the plant in later that day, and he goes, I don't know about keeping them in that place because there's some bugs there, and it must have been some really big bugs, and I'm worried about it. And I was like, oh my God. So then the next day I had to fess up. And I said, hey, if this ends in divorce, I still got to tell you, but vitalate your plant. So that's what we've been doing.
Could have gone either way.
Yeah. And we've been meditating too, but we've been doing that before COVID. Yeah. That's just kind of
We've been meditating so much, I'm not sure if it really does anything or not. Now
every day in the morning for half an hour, we sit quiet. It's good for you. Sitting quiet is good for you.
Take on some of those behaviors, those aesthetics. What do you call them? Ascetics? Like you go out just in your underwear in the freezing cold and beat yourself
like Wim
with
Hof?
a stick.
I don't think that's called ascetics.
Whim does a variation on that.
Okay,
yeah.
well, we'll start
These
with
are the people
cold.
that go off in a cave.
Let's start with the cold bath first. Okay, all right. So critters in the spring and the summer.
What is this podcast about anyway?
It's about ticks and fleas and mosquitoes and all the yucky crap. So now is the time of year, guys. If you stopped using heartworm preventative over the cooler months, I do that because I'm crazy and I don't like to poison the dogs necessarily if I don't have to. You're going to see ticks. If you are in New England, oh my gosh, this is like tick capital of the world, I feel like. But it happens everywhere in the country. But since I moved out to Mass from, the Midwest and Colorado and stuff, ticks have become a way bigger part of my life. We both had ticks already this year.
Yeah, I had one right on my nipple. Did I tell you about that?
He did. And then I pull it out and he acts like, oh, you left the head in and I'm going to get an infection. He's a big baby about it. But, I don't know what the normal protocol is for people. We get them and we just pull them out and make sure we get most of it. And it's kind of red and scabs and we make sure we don't get the rings.
I get a big bullseye on my chest and she says, go back to sleep.
We just hope for the best. So we pull them off ourselves, but it bothers us more with the dogs and everything else. And to be honest, there's no right way to approach any of this stuff. We're going to tell you some different options you can have and some things that we do personally. But really, it's funny. We got here and they're doing a renovation upstairs for a podcast school and a cigar school and everything else. And there's a woman here painting from Australia. And she happened to have a dog here, and I asked her, I said, what do you do for prevention? Because everyone does something different, and she happens to use NexGard for stuff and everything else. But a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about here is a little more holistic than you might be used to seeing, so it might give you some more things to mess with. None of
it actually works. It's very expensive, and it requires multiple applications daily.
He is such a pain in the butt. So, all right, this first thing that I want to talk about, we like this a lot. It's called Wondercide. And this, I think they were on Shark Tank, no?
Never heard of them before. Go ahead.
It is like the first time all over again.
Apparently they were, but we didn't see the episode.
Yeah, but I think you can find them on Shark Tank. So this bottle is quite greasy now that I'm holding it. So this is a spray that you can put directly on the animals. This one is rosemary, I think. Where does it say what it is? There's like rosemary, peppermint, and lemongrass. I think this is rosemary. Yeah, this is the rosemary. So I like this. It smells the least, like, I don't like the dog smelling like peppermint and lemon and everything else. But basically, this is a good thing to spray on before you're like going to go hiking or something else. I have had a decent amount of success with this. You put it all over. You're going to put it on the pig? Good thinking. We've had it many years now. And for the most part, I would say if we don't spray the dogs with it, we'll get a few more ticks than if we did. I also got this year because before we used to have gravel, like at our old house, at our facility, we've always had gravel, and now we have a grass yard, so I don't want to put a lot of chemicals on the grass and kill the grass. So I got the Wondercide yard and garden, so I can just put that on the hose. It's safe for the grass, and I've been spraying that also. It helps freshen up the yard, and then also hopefully it helps a little bit with bug protection.
If you have more than one dog, you need to do something to disinfect you. If you have a dog yard for pottying, you should disinfect it, that's for sure. Well,
and the Wondercide necessarily isn't disinfecting it, but it's helping with the smell. And there's no reason that we need like a kennel disinfectant anymore. It's just our dogs in our yard for a change, which is brilliant.
I misspoke. I wasn't thinking
I think the cigar is going to your head. You're getting affectionate.
You don't want that dry, hot urine smell when you're out there barbecuing.
That's the bottom line.
Or if you were going to make a pizza, if you had a pizza oven in your backyard.
Could you imagine how great that would be?
I'm waiting for an invitation.
So one thing that you do want to consider is just something to spray on the dogs and spray in the yard outside of what you can actually be giving the dogs orally and applying to the dogs and everything else. So Wondercide has been around. It's like good with flea or with kids, everything. It was developed so there's no chemicals. It's really safe and everything else. I mean, I wouldn't put it in your dog's water. And supposedly this one, just because of the concentration, you're only supposed to do through a hose. You're not supposed to actually put it on the actual dogs, but whatever. So 3 different flavors. I like the rosemary. There may be more than 3. However, I will tell you as a side note, we had a bee issue in our commercial facility the last few years, and I had the peppermint one, and I sprayed the peppermint all over the yards, and it got the bees away. I guess bees don't like peppermint, so that's a good side note.
It attracts wasps, but it gets rid of bees.
All right, my next holistic thing, which we just started this year. My good friend got me this. It's from Springtime.
It's a bit controversial.
And this is stinky.
If you're Italian, you probably won't even need this.
You can bring this to your pizza oven. So this is Springtime Bug Off Garlic. So yes, guys, garlic is not safe for dogs. You should not be giving your dogs cloves of garlic and everything else. Administered in small amounts, however, it does deter bugs. So this one specifically says that it helps deter biting insects. So that's pretty much everything.
That sounded like you said biting and sex.
Okay, enough now.
Okay.
This new cigar that he got is something going on with this. He's got his pheromones going.
My dog Jimmy this. He has terrible breath, and he still gets ticks all over.
No, okay. Jimmy has had one tick in the last, I'd say, week, and before that he was getting at least. He's a very active dog. But he's got a lot of hair. He was probably getting 3 to 5 a week. So since I've been using this, I've been really happy. I've been giving this to the border collies, and I just put a scoop of it on their food. You're supposed to work up to the dosage, so the scoop isn't that big. But it legit smells like garlic. So I don't know. It is a dog product. It's safe in use of pregnant animals or animals
and you probably could use it as a seasoning.
Well, potentially, you try it first. I have a garlic allergy.
So
this is my other super woo-woo homeopathic springtime bugs off garlic. So when I originally moved here, I got alcohol for cleaning. This isn't for anything to do with ticks and mosquitoes and everything. When I originally moved here, I did all this research about making my own essential oil blends. And I actually still have these because they smell so bad that I don't put them in the diffusers. So it was like neem oil, lemongrass, cedarwood, eucalyptus. I made all these blends. The dogs smelled terrible. They were still getting ticks. I don't like the smell of them. So I didn't go that route. However, there's this rose geranium type of thing. This is the one that smells like the old lady. Yeah. And I tell you, I've had good success with this. So it's the rose geranium, and then the label actually fell off.
Flashbacks of your Aunt Bertha from the early 60s.
Yeah, like the apothecary style. But this stuff, it does smell a little bit like an old lady, but I have had good results with this oil. However, Scott doesn't like me putting it on his dogs because they come back and it smells like grandma's laying with you. So this rose geranium...
Some people might like that.
This rose geranium with... I don't know. It's an actual herbal blend, not just the baseline thing that you can get on Amazon. It has a big long name after it. I would recommend that one also.
Now, all this stuff being said, we use the harsh stuff. Give me an example.
Exactly. I couldn't wait for him to describe what we actually do with our dogs.
You put the stuff on their back.
We do not use that, and we have not used that for 5 years.
I was going to say, we used to use it.
We only used Frontline.
Still had ticks on them.
We only use Frontline Plus. We never use Advantix.
Yeah. And that wasn't helping either. So it's why poison your dogs? At least you can apply this stuff. You're not going to hurt your dog, That's the thing. That's the hardcore poisons. And not that it isn't worth it if it works well for your dog. The problem with some of those things, more so sometimes with Border Collies with Advantix rather than Frontline Plus, is dogs have a severe reaction. Okay, so we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but that's how we like to do podcasts. I wasn't following any kind of format.
I know, trust me. So the thing about that is you put on Advantix. I'm not trying to scare people. People use it safely all the time. You can do your own Google research. Some dogs... again, more so with Advantix than Frontline, unfortunately, I don't know why that is, will have a severe reaction like a seizure. So people freak out and they think, oh my God, the stuff that I just put on them topically is a problem. So they put water on that. Not good. Because the water now is making it spread way quicker and making it go everywhere way quicker. You put it on the back of the neck and it's making it harder on the system. So if that's going to happen, one, of course, you're going to get on the phone, call your vet, call your emergency vet, something else. You also want to dry that, dab it, okay? Do not put water on. That's your natural reaction. Oh my God, I have to dilute that. Worst possible thing you can do. And you want to be really careful with the dosage of those, that if it's a 25-pound dog, don't freaking pull out the 70-pound container and think, oh, I'll do a little bit on this dog, a little bit on this dog. So it's not that we're completely anti those things. We used to use Frontline before, and for the most part, it just cost a pretty penny, and it wasn't working as well as we had hoped. But be conscious of those things if you're going to use them and administer them.
I agree. I'm the type of person, if a little bit works good, put a lot.
Yeah,
Next thing you know, you get a dog flopping around on the ground.
So we've had better results with the herbal stuff as far as it goes for ticks specifically. Now, I am like a huge minimalist when it comes to giving the dogs vaccines and poisons and everything else. I'm crazy. I have to do SNAP tests, which is a blood test that we'll talk about later, on all the dogs in the spring because I don't give them the poison over the winter because it's cold. The year we took Jimmy to St. John on vacation, I kept giving him heartworm the whole way through because it was going to be warm and there's mosquitoes and everything else. Otherwise, I don't do it. So I run SNAP tests on all the dogs to make sure they're safe. However, really weird thing is I've done Lyme vaccines on all 4 of our young dogs every year. I just did snaps. I didn't have them stay at the vet for Lyme. And they've been Lyme negative every single year I've done a Lyme vaccine. I don't know if that's just pure luck. Some of them have tested positive for anaplasmosis. I'm not really sure there. There's different science, different feelings about Lyme vaccines and everything else. But just as a side note, that's kind of where I get crazy, is that I've vaccinated all the dogs yearly. And Sink now just turned 9, and she's gotten one every year, and she's never come up positive for Lyme. So the thing about...
But there are other tick-borne illnesses.
Yeah, so anaplasmosis and everything else. Yeah. So the thing about the Lyme specifically, and the tick-borne illness diseases, is they can have a lot of bad side effects. And you really want to... That's why we're talking that preventative is so much better than treatment, because heartworm treatment, Lyme, tick-borne illness treatment, everything else, it's expensive, and it can be really taxing on the dog when they have those symptoms. The last thing I want to talk about before we head to break here is those collars, the Seresto collars. You've been talking about those.
We're just getting warmed up.
Honey, we got 15 minutes in. We got to get to break. We got to get you all. I got to have a little pep talk with Scott, get them all reeled back in. So we've been talking about the Seresto collars. You wanted to put one on Jimmy.
I wanted to put him on myself.
Yeah.
I go for a walk with the dogs.
He wants to put stuff on his ankles. He's crazy. Although he could spray the Wonder Side, but God forbid he smells girly. So the Seresto collars, for the most part, I think people have a decent amount of success with.
I love Seresto collars.
You can get them yourself at Petco. The thing we like about them is if the dog's having an issue for some reason, you just take it off. And one thing that concerned me early on was, well, what if the dogs are playing with each other and they
start chewing on it?
Yeah, they start chewing on it and everything else. And my vet reassured me, and I really have a lot of respect for my vet, that pretty much the only way that those can be an issue is if the dog eats everything and swallows it, and then now you're looking at like an obstruction. It's safe in the sense that it is helping keep ticks and stuff away from the dog's coat when it's on the dog, but it's not something where if there's another dog that's playing and near it, it's going to necessarily put poison into their system.
Why don't we have a collar with us so we could show people?
Because we didn't even purchase one, and we don't go into stores unnecessarily. This is our first public appearance in a long time. No, we were talking about trying one with Jimmy.
I'm so excited to be out of the damn house.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is like, I feel like I'm at a carnival or something.
You're a little bit acting like you're at a carnival. I got to tell you, though, for somebody that's a big introvert and acts like he likes isolation, this whole quarantine thing has proved that Scott is very social. Oh my God, he's going on Facebook and posting videos.
I have a hard time shaking you during the day.
All right, guys, we're going to go to break. When we get back from break, we're doing the quirky question of the day. We're excited about that. Ooh, I like this sound.
Does your dog seem anxious? Would you like your dog to relax? Do you want to feel more in control? Would you like your dog to cooperate? HowToCalmYourCanine.com. That's HowToCalmYourCanine.com.
We got a new segment. We're excited.
New segment. I've been trying to push this segment for months. Finally, it took a goddamn national emergency. Pandemic.
Emergency.
Quirky question of the day.
Do this pig.
Jerry from Tennessee said, "How can I prevent my dog from barking at visitors?" Very simple. Do not have anyone come to your home.
Go back to the pandemic times. Well, you give a few suggestions, and then I'll give a few, and we'll go back to bugs.
Well, I would be proactive in the sense, and this is what we tend to do with our dogs. If someone's going to come over to the house and we know they're coming, I will put my dog in a crate before they get there so that they're not crazy and disruptive. If you don't crate your dog, you could let them drag about a 3-foot drag line behind them, a leash, so that when they go running to the door, when the doorbell rings, you can pick up that leash and you can diffuse the situation and move them away is another way of doing it. If certain times of the day your mailman comes predictably between...
Well, that's not a visitor.
Well, it's someone coming to the house that's going to get your dog to bark.
Yeah.
I would prepare. I'd get the dog busy doing something. Or you could use some music. We quite often at our house, we will have music playing where the dog is so that they just don't hear a lot of activity. outside of the room that they're in.
Yeah, a little noise diffusion. We got a music box upstairs.
Of course, we can always go with the bark collar, and that'll eliminate everything right away. But then Jess would start crying. If we put a bark collar on her dog, which I did because her dog is so goddamn disruptive.
I did break down.
She said, okay, you handle it.
quarantine.
I put the collar on the dog. Everything was perfect. She goes, she's not happy like that. I said, okay, take the collar off. We get the barking and all this crap.
It got better. Her barking got better.
It did until we...
Another thing you could do is put the dog in another room, because the thing is that initial excitement of knock, knock, knock or doorbell ring is when the dog is going crazy. The adrenaline's going, everything's what? You're in the moment. If the dog's in another room, you have a guest come and you let the dog out 5 minutes later, likely their behavior is going to be a bit diffused. So there's a few different ways to approach that. But the bottom line is have a freaking plan, because the plan of, the doorbell rings, my dog goes crazy, I pull my dog away, normally turns into a bite. And it just is something you don't want to keep rehearsing.
It doesn't normally turn into a bite.
It could.
Potentially it could.
It
And
could.
it's funny, the people whose dogs don't bark, they say to us, my dog doesn't bark. I want my dog to bark when people come around the house to let me know that someone's there. And the dogs that bark, everyone's like, the dog's driving me freaking crazy. Barks all the time. I can't shut the dog up.
Well, and the bottom line is what we always say, a dog is always going to bark when someone is like coming into your house. Like that territorial barking, you're not going to train it out of them. You're just not allowing the reps to increase and enhance and everything else.
Just want to let them know, thank you. We know someone's here. Go lay down.
You want to be able to tell the dog, shut up. It's enough. I got it handled. Thank you. All right. So we talked a lot about flea and tick kind of stuff here. More tick, I'm thinking, than anything else, but some fleas, some other bugs. And I want to talk a little bit more about some heartworm stuff and the snap test and everything else that I talked about. So again, I'm woo-woo dog owner girl. I try to be as benign, if that's the best way.
Organic as possible.
Yeah, I try to have the less poison as possible for all the dogs. So I asked all my Eastern gurus who used to be DVMs, so not just crazy people, what about heartworm?
They now live in India with their dogs.
Shut up. Do you treat for heartworm or not? And they said yes, 100%. The benefits of treating and preventing so outweigh the costs, whereas maybe they wouldn't use Frontline or Advantix, but they definitely are treating for heartworm.
The caveat would be if you live in a climate where you don't need to treat for
Sometimes it's not a thing. It wasn't a thing in California.
Yeah, like if you don't have mosquitoes in a desert, you don't need to treat for heart guard because dogs are not getting heartworm through the transmission through mosquitoes because you don't have mosquitoes.
Yeah, but when he traveled to Texas to compete or something, he would give it. Is that where he traveled? We had to give it, or Florida? Somewhere. Yeah, and Vegas, I don't think Vegas has a problem with it. But if you live in a place where you're going to have an issue with heartworm, you should be using some sort of preventative. Now, I don't use it on the older dogs, depending on the breed and everything else. If it's a bigger dog that has a life expectancy of like 13, maybe I'll cut it off at 10. Our border collies, maybe I'll cut it off closer to 12. Our older border collies seem quite young right now. It's hard to think of them as old, but I will not give it as they get into their really senior years. For me, the benefits of not giving it outweigh the potential for them to get it. However, we feed raw to our dogs, and some lady at a pickup one time was like, my dog has heartworm. I wasn't treating for it, so I got to feed a lot of heart now, because the more herbalistic, organic way of approaching that is if you're having trouble with the liver, feed the liver. If you're having trouble with the heart, feed heart. So to me, it's like, well, why don't you just freaking give the dog a little preventative, because now your dog has heartworm and you have a big issue. So heartworm treatment is expensive, is scary, and it's hard on the dog. So I personally like Sentinel. I used to be an Interceptor girl, and then when that went off the market for a bit, Sentinel was the closest thing. Sentinel treats for heartworms and fleas. We don't have a big flea problem, but we can talk about fleas in a sec.
Can I interrupt you just for a second?
Yeah, go for it, love.
This reminded me of a lot of people that get rescues that are supposedly have been screened for all this stuff.
Good one.
You might want to get a snap test on a brand new rescue that you bring into your house.
100%.
I have clients that have got dogs that have come with heartworm.
Yes, and the problem with all of this, and why I mentioned the snap test before.
Goddamn wet.
Okay, just hold it and finish it then. For the problem with...
She can't smoke a joint either. So the whole thing's wet. It's
really is true. I really have a problem.
It doesn't work.
I just feel like I look cool. All right, so the thing about this, the ivermectin was going to be maybe a concern with coronavirus. So I don't know. They're talking about, because they were at one point getting woo-woo, like, we're going to use ivermectin to help treat. I know that you have your own feelings on that.
No, I don't know. What does that have to do with coronavirus?
Because they were talking about that being a potential treatment and how there'd be a shortage and all these things. Yes, we already have had this same conversation. So I'm sure it was just one of those Facebook stories.
Every day is brand new.
I'm sure it was just one of those Facebook stories, but I stocked up and did 1-800-PET-MED. So my Sentinel, I got it all set for the year, and the medium size comes in yellow, the little size comes like, I don't know if it's the smallest size green, and then the big size is white. So depending on the dog's weight, you're going to give different colors, and you give that monthly. Now, we talked about before that I get snap tests done. That's because I'm not giving this throughout the winter when we don't have mosquitoes. We live in Maine. You're not going to get a mosquito in January in Maine. We did have a 70-degree day this year, but that was unusual.
That was a cigar day.
Every day is a cigar day with Scott now that we're podcasters. So the bottom line with that is get your snap test. You need a prescription for this stuff anyway from your vet. You can buy it from your vet or get a script and send it into 1-800-PET-MEDS.
Can I just back you up just for a sec?
Yes, love.
The reason you get the snap test is because the dog does have heartworm, and you give them this, it's going to kill all the worms in the dog's heart, and then they're going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, it used to be that this will definitely kill them if it has heartworm or anything like this, heart guard, anything like that. Now it is that if you give it, they might not die, but they're going to get really, really sick. Yeah. So you don't want to kill the thing that you're trying to prevent if the dog already has it in their system.
Probably
so the
snap test made up just to get you in there to do more stuff.
Regardless, our dogs all tested negative for heartworm, so they all got it. Then you give this monthly. So that is one thing that I'm unwavering on. The dogs get poison every month in the warm months. I like Sentinel. You can use whatever you like. I just feel the most comfortable with that. So be thoughtful of that. The one thing about these oral things is you have to watch for that MDR1 mutation. It's more likely common in herding breeds. I know, you don't have to even be a part of this.
MDM1 thing? What is it?
It's MDR1, and it is a big thing. Okay. So you need to get your dog tested. Yes, honey. Okay. How about we save the questions for the segment of the show?
I have another question I'm going to call.
Call Jerry back up in Tennessee. I did a quick little printout of this. This is from Washington State University. So actually, 70% of collies have this MDR1 mutation, so it's important to test for it. It's not as prevalent in other breeds. Australian Shepherds, mini Australian Shepherds, about 50%. Border Collies, it was less than 5%. They're like herding breeds. Be careful of it. Be careful of it. Not a big thing in Border Collies. Long-haired Whippets, 50%.
What collies? I thought you said it was prevalent in collies. What kind of collies are we talking about?
Collie, like Lassie.
Okay, not a Border Collie.
No, that would be a Border Collie. Okay. Collie is Lassie.
Okay.
And nobody else had super high percentages, but like the Windhound, the Shetland Sheepdog, obviously a Sheltie, an Old English Sheepdog, a McNab can have it. So test for that and research that, because certain breeds can have a sensitivity, and then you can have an issue with some of these medications, and you have to go an alternative route. So I just want to put that out there in case you're not aware of that, to keep you guys on track with it.
And I will say, surprisingly, a lot of vets don't know this stuff about these specific breeds. They just treat...
Well... They're getting more aware of the MDR1 stuff, mostly because they want to run the test for it and everything else. But it is something important to treat for. So I have never had a big flea issue. You said Gigi had fleas in California at one point.
I had crabs once. Does that count?
Oh, for the love of God. This new cigar, we got to be careful when he's smoking it and where. We're doing an interview.
It's a long time ago. Way before I met you.
Oh, good. So anyway, about the fleas, I have never had an issue. Gigi had them. What happened when Gigi had them? What'd you have to do?
I gave her a flea bath. We just bought the shampoo.
Yeah, Gigi's a little Pomeranian. They also have these little flea combs.
If you board your dog a lot, there's more potential.
Yeah, you could get that. Yeah, and it also, it's climate dependent too. And Gigi would go to groomers and stuff, so she could have picked it up there. These little flea combs, you can kind of comb through. This is the same thing the vet uses. You can get this on Amazon. See if your dog has it. You want to look along the spine a lot of times, sometimes under on their belly. The other thing is a side that this is great for. Our old employee told us this. You know the little dogs that get those tear stains that just don't look great even after a bath? If you take this and you do the little hairs there, the coat looks beautiful.
Dogs love it.
It's not that they love it, but you're not digging around, but you get those tear stains and you get that coat to look nice. I can't tell you how many pet dogs I send home, and I'm like, oh my God, dog looks like it's crying, like I'm wiping, the dog's getting the soap in his eyes. So these little flea combs also are great for the little tear stains and the stuff there. You used flies. You had flies out in California. This was a product you had.
I like this product, Flies Off. It's a gel. And I did have a problem with my dogs getting their ear. I would keep my dogs outside in the kennel during the day. So the flies would start buzzing around, and they'd land on the dog's ears. And
so what is this, like a salve?
It's a gel. Yeah, it's like a white paste.
Oh, it is open. It just still has the sun.
And
yeah, so
I would just coat that all over their ears, and
kind of like what people do with horses and stuff. Yeah, but if you have dogs that are having issues with flies, this Flies Off is one brand, or you can look for
if
something
you're having a fly
there.
problem, they make this in a spray too, but get the gel. The fly, because the spray, you got to apply it a lot. The gel just stays on. It may look ugly, but it'll save your dog's ears and all that stuff. The dogs will not. And that's if a dog is outside, for a few hours at a time. If they're just going out to pee, it's never going to be an issue.
Yeah, it's normally not a big issue. And the other thing, I probably should have brought this up when we were talking about.
Though.
Well, it has a German Shepherd on
No,
it,
I know.
so
They
that's
just put
poor
different,
marketing.
They put different
The
animals on the front.
horse one is this size, and this is the dog size.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I would urge you to consider is diatomaceous earth. You have to get diatomaceous earth food grade for what I'm talking about doing, but I've done this previously also. I did it when we had the gravel yard more so, but I just take it and I sprinkle it all over the yard.
Tell us
also,
what that is. It sounds like some kind of a...
You can describe it. You know it better than me.
I think it's just
know.
a shell. It's like a freshwater snail shell or some type of shell crushed up.
Yeah.
But the way it works is that a bug that has an exoskeleton, it will stick on the outside of the bug. Yeah. And it will wear a hole in their exoskeleton, and then that will kill them from the outside in.
Doesn't sound very good from an animal rights perspective, but good for preventative.
No, I used it for, and a lot of people used it for the, what was the bugs?
Bed bugs?
Yeah, bed bugs.
Yeah,
that's a big thing for bed bugs.
He had his entomologist hat on there for a moment. He got all buggy with exoskeleton.
I learned way more about them than I ever wanted to know.
God, those are the days. So that's another thing you can consider sprinkling, and that covers a bunch of things.
And a bunch of different, the dog.
Yeah. Well, it has to be food grade. So do not say this. It has to be food grade. If you have the diatomaceous earth in your yard, you don't want the dogs to get on their paws and come in and lick their paws. So get the food grade. It's not that much more, and it is a thing. But a lot of times it's on like an equine website or something.
Now that's a holistic thing that is very legitimate as far as killing those type of bugs.
Honey, all of these things are legitimate. You just pick and choose.
No, some will work and some won't. It depends on the tenacity of the ticks and whatnot.
Yeah, diatomaceous earth works really, really well. So it's a good product to be closing with. And then have some stuff on hand. The other day, I don't know what bit bug, we were sitting around, all of a sudden my dog's face was getting swollen, and I was not happy about it. Yeah,
we gave the dog some Benadryl, which fixed it. But while we waited the 10 minutes for the dog's nose to go down, Jess wanted to run the dog to the friggin' emergency vet.
I just said, do you think she needs... I was a little bit crazy.
I was ready to go to bed.
I contacted a bunch of people.
Put the dog in the car.
Well, this happened one time, as an aside, before we close, with my border collie when she was... border collie, when I was really young, she had a lepto vaccine, and we were playing Monopoly, and by the time we saw her, she looked like a Shar-Pei. So I saw a little swelling on the muzzle, and Sink almost looked like a Mastiff. Her lips were swollen and stuff, but have Benadryl on hand. Benadryl is safe for dogs, 25 milligrams per pound normally. And then another thing you can have on hand is arnica for swelling and everything with bug bites. That's a homeopathic, and you just put it in the mouth and let it dissolve in the gums.
How do you know how much Benadryl to give your dog?
Because if you go on any website, it's a milligram a pound.
That's something that probably happens fairly often, because a lot of dogs snap at yellow jackets and bite them right out of the air.
And that could have been what happened. We have a wasp issue at home. I don't know if she was bit by something, or she was out that day. She was at my desk. I don't know what happened.
She was trying to eat food off my plate, and I gave her a karate chop.
No, it was definitely a reaction to a bug bite or a bite like that. But we had the Benadryl right there. I've been taking it. I mowed last week. It's just that time of year where you have to be prepared for stuff with kids, with humans, with dogs. So do you have any closing thoughts for our big critter podcast here?
No, I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you at least should have learned something new. If you're doing what you're doing, if it's working for you, great. Don't change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you're looking for some new stuff and you're looking for some alternative stuff, try this. There's no harm in putting Wondercide on a dog that also got treatment of Frontline. I mean,
one thing I would add, since you asked, is when you go out for a walk with your dog and it gets a tick on it, usually that tick is almost microscopic in size. It's just a tiny little thing. You won't see it. So it's not a bad idea to just go over your dog's body when you're petting your dog, just because that's how I find the ticks on my dog. I'm just petting him, and I'm kind of getting into his skin and just feeling around, and all of a sudden, boom, I feel a bump. Yeah. And I check it, and more often than not, it's not a tick. It might just be something else altogether, something of no consequence.
And a lot of people will even brush their dogs after a hike to get those before they even adhere to the skin. Because when we feel them on us, they're not really engorged with our blood or anything else. They're attached to us, but they're not. If they're engorged and all of a sudden, it's getting bigger because they're sucking on your dog's blood.
What's awesome is when you feel that crawling up your shin and you pull up your pant leg and there's a goddamn tick crawling up.
Yeah, it's very reinforcing to him. He has the heebie-jeebies for like a week. But these tick keys, you can get them a bunch of places. We keep them on each of our keychains, actually. For the dogs, once they're engorged, I would recommend using that because you can go right to the head and pull it off so you're not like now breaking the tick and blood spattering all over and some of the tick is still within inside the dog.
You could use a cigar cutter too if it's a big tick.
Yeah, you are big on the cigars. He's going to probably go shopping here during our next break. We're going to film with a guest in a little bit. We're going to have to regroup before that.
I think we should extend this for an hour.
I know you do, but you're getting a little bit yappy. We're excited to be back. We're longer than normal. Next week, we are going to have a guest on with us. If you need anything from us, you can find us us at studio@thequirkydog.com.
Good to see you guys. Stay safe out there. It's not over yet.
And in the meantime, keep it quirky. Take care, guys.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.